But a lot of times when you hear those people talk about buying real estate, no money down, you gotta have damn near perfect credit to do that. But they don't tell you that. Like, yeah, no money down, you can go get this, but you're gonna need a loan and some references if you don't already have the capital yourself or the connections with that private money. They leave a lot of stuff out just to catch our ears, make us turn our hearing up with words like no money down. Now, you're gonna need some money somewhere because you're not buying this house on a credit card. Right? So either way, you're gonna need money. And that is one of the ways that you can make money as a wholesaler with actually no money down, but you have to have an investor that does have money. Right. So you may not have no money, but you better have someone that does have some money.
All right, welcome back, Bootstrappers, to another episode of Bootstrapped Millionaire. I am your host, Tim T. Mercer, and I'm excited to have in the studio with me today a good friend of mine. He is the other half of the Construction Kings. He goes by the name of Kelley Parker, aka KP the Builder. What's happening, KP? How you doing,
brother? Man, I appreciate you having me. I'm delighted to be here.
Hey, man, I'm glad to have you, man. Listen, obviously we're going to talk all things real estate today, and but before we get started into conversation real estate, just let our bootstrappers know a little bit about who you are.
All right. My name is Kelley Parker, as Tim just stated. I'm originally from Mount Dora, Florida, which is right north of Orlando. I've been doing real estate now for over 10 years. I started out in Florida, been in Georgia now almost 8 years. So it's just been an exciting journey. I was able to educate myself to the point where I am right now, and I continue to do it every day.
So you growing up in Florida, did you know anything about real estate when you was growing up? Or
absolutely nothing. We didn't have these talks around the table with our parents, the importance of ownership, or the importance of real estate as a whole. A lot of us was raised in apartments or the projects or whatever, so we really didn't understand the whole real estate thing. We just thought you pay somebody to stay here, and that was pretty much all the real estate information that we knew.
What got you interested in the whole industry of real estate? Where did the buzz come from?
Well, I was reading the Forbes magazine, and I noticed that majority of the people on that list, the top list, had real estate backgrounds. And I was trying to figure out what part of real estate did they invest in or had their backgrounds in, because it solely wasn't just buying somewhere to live in and letting that equity create wealth for you. So I dug a little deeper and learned more about investing. Learned about, of course, fixing, flipping, wholesaling, and now new construction and development. But it's just been a constant journey of seeing someone that looks like you do it, because we didn't have that many role models. If we did, back then it wasn't social media. So we didn't see it on TV. It was rarely in the internet clippings that had these images of people that look like us out here doing it. So it was just a little harder back then to get inspiration outside of just physically picking something up and reading it.
Now, when you got started, where did you first start? Because I know you have your real estate license, but how did you first start in the game of real estate?
All right, I got my license, like I say, about 10 years ago down in Tallahassee, Florida. I went to Florida A&M University, became a school teacher, and started actually in my free time, like I said, I was reading up on real estate, borrowed the money from my sister. She passed away back in 2019, to actually take the real estate class. And I took the class. It was an expedited class, like I want to say 42 or 52 hours. I took it in 7 days. And I took the state test the following week. I failed 5 times.
Wow.
But I took it a total of 6, of course, if I failed 5. But I was taking it every other day. So I took it 6 times in 2 weeks, the state exam, because I would fail on Monday. You can't take it the following day, so I would pay to go Tuesday. Pay Tuesday, go Wednesday, pay Thursday, go Friday. And I did that for 2 weeks till I passed, because I couldn't let her down on myself. So I was like, man, you better go, because I failed the first time by 5. And every test from then, I failed by 1 point. And I think I took every example of the test they had down in Florida.
So look, you was determined then.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
You was determined to get that license.
Yeah, back then it was only $35 to take the state exam.
Yeah.
Unlike Georgia, it was just like $300. So I was like, man, I gotta go.
But
because I
really,
failed five.
but your motivation was to ensure that you wouldn't let your sister down.
Exactly. And that's why I still go today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Yeah. So I know that so you moved from my understanding, you moved from Tallahassee to Atlanta because your childhood friend, Gene Johnson, who was
Right.
on our Bootstrapped Millionaire podcast, so shout out to Gene,
Yeah.
was here in Atlanta, and you moved to Atlanta to kind of really jumpstart your real estate agent career. Is that true?
It was the jump start, because I was in Tallahassee, huge renters market with Florida State and FAMU. So it wasn't really much buying and selling. I seen him, he had the #1 team at Keller Williams Atlanta Partners. I was with Keller Williams Cologne, which is a branch in Tallahassee. So I hit him up on Facebook on a Wednesday, and he was like, "What's up, man?" I was like, "Yo, I got my license in Florida. I'm thinking about moving to Atlanta. If I come up there, do you think you got space for me on your team?" He was like, "Hell yeah, when you want to come?" I was like, "Whenever." He said, "Can you come tomorrow?" Which would have been that Thursday. I was like, "Nah, I can't come tomorrow. I mean, can you start tomorrow?" I was like, "I can't start tomorrow, but I can come. I can start Monday. I just got to come up there and, fill some things out." He was like, "Okay, bet." He sent me an address, and that was almost 8 years ago.
Wow.
So I moved just like that because I seen the opportunity. I wanted to do something different, so I had to do something different, right? So I reached out to him, and of course, my license was still Florida, but they had the reciprocity, but I had to establish residency here in Georgia by getting a Georgia license. But in the meantime, he had like a wholesale company called Gateway Acquisitions.
Yeah.
And I jumped on with him, and he taught me the game, and I learned the greater Atlanta area all by zip codes. So we were doing, 25, 30 houses a month, wholesale. My first month from Tallahassee, where I was a manager at a Jamaican restaurant, my first month I did over $16,000.
Wow.
I said, I'm never going back to Florida.
Right.
And like I said, I've been there ever since. It's just when I came up here, I came up with the idea like, listen, I got to get it. I mean, I got a child. I got to keep growing. I mean, I had my child when I was just turned 19 in college.
Yeah.
So I knew I had a lot depending on me outside of my sister, my family. Like, I got to be an example because before my daughter was born, I wasn't going to college. I was going to go cut hair or something, just do trade, which make some money and survive because that's what we saw. Once I went to Tallahassee and seen it and got more educated, I knew real estate is where I belong because there's nobody like me in it. And I need to be an example to a lot of people that look like me or come from where I'm from.
Absolutely.
And just motivate them in this aspect.
So basically, you started out in wholesaling, right? That's kind of like when you with the first, because there's different aspects of real estate, as we know, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But let's start with wholesaling because I think a lot of people, for our bootstrappers out there, explain to us what wholesaling means.
Okay. Wholesaling is when you acquire a property, meaning you put it under contract from A person. You're the B person. So you get a contract from the actual A, the actual seller, the actual owner. Put it under contract. You have an option to either A, do a double close, B, do an assignment, or let's say C, bring in some partners to help close that deal and you close it yourself. But wholesale, you don't need a license. You're actually just putting the house under contract and selling the actual paperwork, which is the contract. So you're not selling the house because you don't own the house. You just have it under contract. So the wholesalers have to sell that house before it closes or during that due diligence time or whatever period they may have, put an assignment on it, which is adding a fee and selling the contract, or do a double close and use pass-through funding or other types of funding, meaning that although I don't have this money in my account, I have a B2C end buyer that will pass their money through me to close this deal in a double close.
So is that one of, you hear a lot of people say online how to buy money, how to buy real estate with no money down.
Right.
Is that one of the strategies?
That's one of the strategies, but a lot of times when you hear those people talk about buying real estate, no money down, you got to have damn near perfect credit to do that. But they don't tell you that. Like, yeah, no money down, you can go get this, but you're going to need a loan and some references if you don't already have the capital yourself or the connections with that private money. They leave a lot of stuff out just to catch our ears, make us turn our hearing up with words like no money down. Now, you're going to need some money somewhere because you're not buying this house on a credit card.
Right.
Right? So either way, you're going to need money. And that is one of the ways that you can make money as a wholesaler with actually no money down, but you have to have an investor that does have money. Right. So you may not have no money, but you better have someone that does have some money.
So as the wholesaler, then if I find a seller who's trying to sell their home, and I come to you, let's say you are my investor, I put the property under contract, and then sell that contract to you at closing.
Exactly.
That's ultimately how it works, and I make a fee from that.
Exactly. Right. That's exactly wholesaling in a nutshell. Having your end buyer, which is your B2C.
Yeah.
I have my A to B with the original person.
Yes.
The uniform person is myself between A and B and B to C. So I get this contract from Tim Mercer and I want to sell it to DeMarcus. I'm going to sell you, hey, listen, this is a contract between Tim and DeMarcus, but I'm assigning it to you with this piece of paper here. And you take this assignment and this contract and now it's yours. Just pay me that assignment fee at closing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now and I think there's a lot more details to that, right? From a deal analysis perspective, right? Because you got to find properties that have enough equity in it to do that, right?
Exactly. You have to understand one thing is most wholesalers don't understand when they first get into the space, that you have to be able to understand how to analyze a deal and the potential profit and value of it. Because you may put something on the contract that may sound good to you, but to someone as an investor, if the numbers don't make sense, then they don't make sense. Because if I buy $100,000 house and the comps are 150 and it needs 30 in work, that may not make sense for me. But if you had that same house for a 65, 70, and it still needs that 30, it's more appealing, but you have to understand the actual cost to renovate it or to increase the value and the actual comps, which is the ARV, the after repair value.
So does wholesaling pretty much only works in when you have properties that are in distressed situations or sellers that are in distressed situations, right? Because the key to it is the equity, right? That there's equity in this property that you can leverage to basically end up selling to your end buyer, right?
Exactly.
So in most cases, when you're doing that, you're looking for the seller that I'm looking for is a seller that's in a distressed situation. Would you agree with that?
I would agree.
Yeah.
And another part of wholesaling that some people may not know about is wholesaling. And that is getting a house under a wholesale contract, right? An off-market house that doesn't need anything done to it. Say you got it out of probate or something where someone just really trying to get rid of it.
Yeah.
But it's in great condition. You take that off-market property, put it under contract while it's yours, list it. And get a buyer before your contract is up on the wholesaling side. So you're selling it retail, but you're not selling it to an investor. You have an agreement with the seller that I'm going to list this property public. And you can do that as an agent because you can represent a buyer or a seller. But if I have the contract, I'm the buyer.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I'm pushing this out on social media or the other networks.
So you're doing, and you don't have to have a license to do that, right? I mean, you're doing pretty much the same thing that a real estate agent would be.
Yeah, but the real estate agent doesn't have any interest in the property. I'm the buyer.
You have interest.
I have interest. I can do what I want to with it.
Yes.
So that's the difference between an agent and a wholesaler. A wholesaler has actual interest. An agent is just a representative for the buyer or the seller of the real estate.
Now that's the first time I really heard that concept. That's a great concept, though.
I'm surprised Gene didn't mention it.
No,
because it was the first one I heard because I knew we did several properties like that down in Clayton County.
Yeah,
that we would just wholesale, like get these properties off market, put them on the MLS. They be gone in a couple weeks.
And for our listeners, I want to make sure they understand. Off market, right? Let's take a step back because I need for people to understand the difference between off market and on market, right?
Right.
Give me your definition of on market and off market, and I'll share with you mine, and then we can kind of compare. But so I want listeners to understand because a lot of people hear people say off market, on market. What's the difference between the two?
All right, off market is typically something that hasn't been listed with an agent.
Correct.
On the market is something that is listed for sale online, where you can see it, whether it's Zillow, Redfin, Realtor.com, MLS, etc. That's on the market. Something I have a contract where it doesn't have any signs in the yard, or I have a contract straight with the seller who doesn't want to disclose that this property is for sale because they don't want the attention. That's an off-market deal.
I got that's a good yeah. And that's how I understand it as well too, right? You know, so as a wholesaler, I mean, then that's the term, right? Wholesaler, you are finding off-market properties,
Right.
which is could be easy to find with different marketing strategies, and the property doesn't have to be in a distressed situation. The property could be a good property, retail level property. You can actually wholesale that property to an end buyer the same way. Because most wholesalers typically deal with distressed property.
Right.
Yeah.
And they have to include like what it's going to cost to fix it, the repair analysis and all this stuff.
Yes.
But if you find a property, let's say we're in a neighborhood where houses are going for $300,000.
Yes.
Someone sells me this house for $225,000. I can go wholesale this house right now for $285,000 because it's still a little less, which is going to make it appealing in case it is a couple touch up here and there. But it's when you I'm gonna back up a little bit.
Yes.
When you actually do a double closing or a assignment, you want to separate the two based on how much you're marking the property up for, right? Because if you sell me a house for $100,000 and I know I can get $150,000 for it in the condition,
Yes.
I'm more than likely gonna do a double closing on that.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to hand somebody an assignment for $50,000.
Yes.
And let the A to B see that I'm putting 50 on top.
Yes.
No, I'm going to close this on my double closing, which is 2 closings. I'm going to close my A to B at 100, and then I'm going to close my B to C at 150.
So when you do the double closing, the seller isn't really privy of what happens on the other side, because it's almost like you close that one loan.
Yep.
The seller leaves, and I'm thinking in my head, the seller walks out of the office,
Exactly.
and then the buyer comes in, and then you just basically doing the deal with them.
Exactly. That's exactly a double close. But an assignment, they're dealing with A now.
Yes.
C is dealing with A. I just have my piece of paper that says B.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So if they want to see that I'm marketing up 50,000, C can be like, he putting 50 on this.
Yeah.
You need to terminate.
Yeah.
And then they just do their thing.
So it sounds like me, the double closing is the best play.
Yeah, especially when you're doing anything over $10,000.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. So it sounds like to me as a wholesaler, I can make just as much money as a real estate agent as a wholesaler without having to have the license.
More money.
Yeah.
With no license as a wholesaler. But you just have to understand how to buy right.
Yeah.
The deal with real estate is made when you buy it, not when you sell it. So if you get the price right when you first get it, regardless of what the market do, you already bought it right.
Yes.
You're not playing catch up at this point.
Yeah.
But if you pay too much at the beginning, then it's uphill battle ever since.
And I would imagine too that a buyer who doesn't want to disclose that their property is listed, let's say an entertainer or someone who wants to be private,
Right.
they would probably prefer to deal with a wholesaler than to deal with an agent, because most agents are going to put your stuff straight on the MLS. What is it called? That
MLS?
MLS.
Yeah, multiple listing services or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's powerful, man.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of the other aspects, right? I mean, and as we can tell, we could have got deep into the wholesaling. It's very intriguing. What are some of the other areas of real estate? Because the whole way in which you can get into the real estate game. Wholesaling is one. Give me another way that you get into real estate.
You can do project management. That's for renovations or new constructions, but of course you have to be versed on that side.
Yeah.
Like you just stated, the easiest way to really get into real estate with no license is the wholesaling. Or outside of project managing, just surrounding yourself, going to these networking events. And if you are an agent and you want to make more money and want to primarily work with investors, you will, when you get your business cards, instead of having realtor or real estate agent or something on that, you will put investment specialists on your card.
Okay.
So now you're at these mixes and meetups and networking events, and it's a bunch of investors and a bunch of real estate agents. They're probably going to call you first because you say
Yes.
investor friendly or investment specialist.
Yes.
So they're going to reach out to you. So that's the way that you can get into the other side of real estate, which is the money side. You know, and I know that it's one thing to be sitting at the seller side of the table and seeing what you get to take home, and then having an agent there and they get their 3% and they like, damn, I did all the work. You know, I did this and that for 3%, and this guy just went home with 300,000. I went home with 9 or whatever. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's so true. That's so true. And now the project management piece is intriguing to me because I don't think most people know that you can actually do that, right? I mean, explain that a little bit more in terms of the project management.
all right. So when I came up here and started working with Gene doing the wholesaling, he was still fixing and flipping. So he started having me project manage his jobs, meaning manage the everyday process. But fixing and flipping is a little difficult because every property is not the same. But once you understand that hiring the right people is key, you manage people. It's a people management business. It says project management, but you're managing the people at the project, because you're not going to get out here and, you know, do installation or any labor or sheetrock or paint or anything like that.
Absolutely.
You're going to be in charge of getting the people to do it.
Yeah.
So understanding that this is people management, which is project management.
Absolutely.
So if you're a good people person, then you can be a great project manager. You just got to understand the steps of renovating or whatever you may be doing.
So if you understand those steps, then you literally can contract yourself out to investors, builders,
Yep.
and help basically manage their projects for them.
Yep.
So if I'm someone that, like for me, when I first got in real estate, I came from the IT field, and I understood how to run IT projects. So when a friend of mine came to me and wanted me to be a capital partner for him,
Right.
I agreed, but but the caveat was that I needed to manage the project because that's the only way for me to keep my eyes on my money.
Right.
Right. And I just literally used my project management skill set from being in corporate to do that. And in fact, I remember I went online and just pulled up the steps on how to build a house and put together a project plan based on that.
Yeah.
And so that's what you're saying.
That's
It sounds
it.
like the same thing.
That's it, because like it's a people management business. Like
Yeah.
most of the stuff that we do as humans are people management businesses outside of the IT stuff, which is computer related.
Yeah.
So anything with real estate, you just managing people.
Yeah.
You can't make anything go any faster if there are material delays or other weather delays. You can't control that. So you manage the people that are doing the work. So just understanding that you really can't control nothing outside of your body, you'll get a lot further in life. That's my thought process, because we can't even control what's going on in our body.
Absolutely.
So how the hell we think we're going to control something outside of our body? How can I control another grown man who got another life that I don't know nothing about?
Absolutely.
So you got to treat everybody with respect and let them know, I understand, listen, things happen, but we need to get this done when we can get it done.
Yeah.
But you can't crack no whip. That's not happening. You're going to constantly be stressed out.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you think that wholesaling is still prevalent today, right? Because I know the real estate game has changed over the past 10 years.
Yeah.
Do you think the wholesaling is still a prevalent way to
It is, but it's a lot harder.
Yeah.
Because, you know, so many hedge funds are in this space now, where they just giving people all kind of money for houses. Like they bought so much real estate here in Atlanta last year. Like my neighborhood down in McDonough is probably 30% owned by hedge funds.
Wow.
Then we have a whole new neighborhood on the same street, Jodico Road. The whole neighborhood is hedge fund, built from the ground up, and everything's for rent.
Wow.
So with them coming into this play and giving people more money for distressed properties or land, it's making it harder for us to go out here and find deals when they have, you know, hundreds of people calling people.
Wow, that's interesting because if you think about it, so years ago, wholesaling was a great play for the individuals like ourselves to get it. Now, what you're saying is that it has been more institutionalized now.
Oh, yeah.
Where institutions now are basically coming into the game.
And they're in a sense wholesaling, but they're not selling.
Yes.
They're whole renting. It's like they're buying it and converting it into a rental property,
Right.
or just putting a couple dollars into a distressed home and just sitting on it without even renting it out and letting the equity grow.
Yeah.
Because the house next door to me has been vacant for a year, but the values in our neighborhood are growing up. So they're making more money by having that house empty than having tenants in it because they're not putting any wear and tear on it.
Absolutely. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
they're not running the AC. They're not doing
Yeah.
this. So it's just a 3-story house on the basement just sitting there. Why would I charge them $2,500 a month when I can get $60,000, $70,000 a year in equity
In it, yeah.
without having to go repair anything?
Wow, that's a great strategy. Yeah.
Yeah, they're buying a lot of these houses and not even putting people in them.
Wow. So listen, we're gonna take a quick break.
Okay.
And we want at the second part of the conversation, I want to talk about what you guys are doing, which is I think is the counter
Gentrification.
the counteraction to what's happening with wholesaling and all that, and that's the new bill, right?
Yeah.
Because I think new bill now has started to become, and I think you and Gene with the Construction Kings have really been the ones pushing this concept forward over the past several years around showing people how to be getting to new bills. So we're going to take a quick break. Okay. So hold tight, bootstrappers. The next video, and I want the bootstrappers to know we got another video that's on our channel. This is where we're going to get into the conversation of new bills and how you are creating your own inventory. So hold tight for the second part of my conversation with KP the Builder.
Y'all come back now.